Okay. All right. So we're on the top of Lamed Gimel Lamed Aleph, and we mentioned in the Mishnah, Ve'ein chotkin also, we don't chop the shofar off of the head of the animal. Ve'ein midavar shu mishum shavus, ve'ein midavar shu mishum lo saseh, whether you're going to do it in a way that would only be an issa d'rabbanan, or whether you would do it in a way which would be an issa d'oraisa. Mishum shavusu, what would be an irregular way of doing it? That would be if you used a magla, a sickle. Losa said a normal way of doing it would be if you use the sakina, if you use the knife, the rif and the rosh have it the other way around. But either way, whatever's the normal way is an issa d'oraisa, the abnormal way is an issa d'rabbanan. So we start off with an issa d'rabbanan. Hashta mishum shavus amislo, that we say you can't do it in a fashion in which it's going to be an issa d'rabbanan. Lo sasem mibaya, obviously you can't violate an issa d'oraisa if we're not going to let you even violate an issa d'rabbanan. So we gave the same answer that we gave for the previous discussion. We had gezeros at the beginning of the Mishnah, certain things like issa tchum, which are just inherently d'rabbanan, other things like climbing a tree, that we're worried it's going to lead to a d'oraisa. So we said that we listed in the order of zu ve'ein tzarich lomar zu ketani. That we first have the bigger chiddush, that's an issa d'rabbanan, and then we say once we know that you can't do an issa d'rabbanan, so then we say obviously you can't do an issa d'oraisa either. That's sometimes the style of how the Mishnah records halachas. But the Mishnah said it's not considered to be makeh b'patish if you wash it out with water. You wash out the inside of the shofar with water or wine, because it's basically usable anyway. This just makes it a little bit more user friendly. So what we learn to see from the Mishnah is that you can wash it out with water or wine, but not urine. In case you had any ideas, don't use urine. So Masnis and Mani, who's the Mishnah going like? Abba Shol, he is going like Abba Shol, the Tanya Abba Shol Omer, Mayim Yayin Mutter, you're allowed to use water or wine in order to polish it a little bit. But the urine would be usher of ne'akavod because it's just not considered to be respectful to use urine. Okay, bear that in mind. We don't stop the youngsters from blowing the shofar themselves. So it sounds like we only don't stop. Thank you. We only don't stop the youngsters, but the women. If a woman would try to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, certainly we're talking even at Shabbos. So we would certainly stop the women because they are not ever going to be obligated. At least the youngsters, the young boys, eventually are going to be obligated on a deraisa level to blow the shofar. But Noshim, we wouldn't allow. But is that true? Because we have another brisa that seems to indicate otherwise. Another brisa says, we don't stop the women, and we also don't stop the young children. For Yom Tov, if they're going to blow the shofar on Yom Tov. So Amar Abaye, Lokasha Abaye says, not a stira, not a problem. Our Mishnah is pointing to one opinion, and the Bryce is going according to the other opinion. How Rabbi Yehuda, how Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon. It's Rabbi Yehuda on the one hand, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon on the other hand. Regard Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon are more flexible with respect to what we allow the women to do, which is what gives rise to this very, very long tosos over here, which is the chiddush of Rabbeinu Tam, saying we paskin the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, the Nimuko Imo, and therefore a woman who wants to perform a mitzvah's essay, she has man grama, wants to perform a mitzvah that she's exempt from, whether it be shofar, lulav, or sukkah, and so forth, we allow her to do, and we allow her to make a bracha. The Tanya, as the Brisa says, when it comes to, for example, the mitzvah of doing smicha, of leaning one's hands on the korban that they bring. So there's an explicit exclusion for women who bring a korban. It's only the men who do this, but not the women. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda says we have Xeris Akasu. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Omim, Noshim, Somchos, Rishus. But Rabbi Yossi, together with Rabbi Shimon, say that it's a Rishus, that it's true women are exempt, but if they want to do smicha, this is the whole question. Do we give smicha to women? So it starts here in the Gemara. If they want the smicha, so fine. Don't. Let the women be happy. Let the women be happy. We'll let them do smicha. So if I'm asking for him, she do, but we practice with them. He's talking about the ketanim. We practice with the ketanim for purposes of cleanup. That would be okay. You can do that in Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Elazar says you can do that even on Shabbos. Even on Shabbos, you could practice when we don't blow the shofar. You could do it even on Shabbos. Tanya Nami Hachi Raisa says this as well. Misaskin Behenat Shiyum do it b'Shabbos. You could even do it on Shabbos because it's not a real malacha. And we don't and we don't stop at the tinokas. Some take out those words after milaskoa, and we don't stop the tinokas, the young boys, from blowing the shofar. Wait a second, we have a little bit of an internal contradiction over here because we started out saying that we even practice together with them, and then we said, oh, we don't stop them if they do it on their own. So which is it? Is it the chatfila or is it the evid? Hagufa kasha, amis misaskin behem. We started off saying that we practice together with them until they learn up your filu b'Shabbos. So it sounds like that we allow this even on a lechatchila level. To tickle that we tell them go ahead, you can blow the shofar. The harder tana, because of the fact that it's only a shvus, and this is for chinuch purposes, so we allow it. That's what the Gemara says. We're gonna see. We don't blow it in shul. We don't blow it in shul because we're afraid you're gonna walk out amos with it. But then we say we just don't stop them, but we don't the chatzkila work together with them. So which is it? Is it the chatzkila or b'diavad? So lo kasha. The Gemara says no contradiction. We're talking about the different levels of katan, different levels of young boys. Kan, turn page. The katan shehigia l'chinuch. The case where you work together with them, the chatzkila, is when the katan has already each reached the age of chinuch. Kam katan shlo higia l'chinuch. When you don't work together with them, but you just don't stop them, that's talking about when they have not reached the age of chinuch. Look, higia l'chinuch usually is each katan the kol echad the pichor phase. The Gemara says otherwise, according to their level of maturity and development. 6, 7, 8, depending, right, 9, depending on when they know what they're doing and they understand the nature of the mitzvah. And the Mishnah said that if a person is just practicing, or some translate that absent person is just blowing the shofar absent-mindedly, doesn't even have in mind that they want to produce a sound. They're just a they're just looking to blow air, and the sound comes out. So then, even if the sound happens to be the tkiya, true tkiya, you're not going to be yotzei. That's misasek. So hatokea l'shir. That's what Rashi says. Says ela minabeach nevuche. Just blowing air, and a sound happens to come out. So hatokea l'shir yotza. So the implication is that if a person really did intend to play a ditty, they did intend to have a nice musical sound come out. And it happened but they just didn't have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah, and the sound that they had in mind happened to coincide with a tkiya, through a tkiya, so they would be yotzei, even though they didn't have kavanah for the mitzvah. So they might say the Rava. That seems to support the opinion of Rava that we discussed the other day. Rava is of the opinion that the person who's just blowing the shofar to play a song, it happens to be the song of tkiya, through a tkiya, he fulfills the obligation even though he didn't have kavanah. So we say no. Dilma tokela shir nami misase karile. Maybe misase includes the case where a person is blowing the shofar without having, like even for practice, without having in mind that they're going to fulfill the mitzvah. So therefore, we don't have a proof from here. So we mentioned it seems to be a machlokes whether you're yotzei or not. If you're tokela the shir, question of how to read the Rambam. We're basically machmir that we say that mitzvahs on a deraisa level, such as blowing the shofar, we require kabbalah. A person who hears somebody else who's blowing the shofar, who's just doing it as a misasek, it's a practice, or just to blow air. So he for sure is not yotzei. About shemea, so again we have an implication here from the Mishnah that only in that case would the listener not fulfill his obligation about shemea mina mashmiya liatzmo. But if a person heard the shofar blowing from an individual who had in mind to fulfill the mitzvah, but he just didn't have in mind to be motzi anybody else, my yotza, it sounds like he would be yotzi. That presents a kasha, a contradiction against the opinion of Rabbi Zera. Definitely Rabbi Zera, because Rabbi Zera, as we have recorded the other day, gave instructions to his attendant, l'shamei ikaven metakali, have in mind to be motzi me. Have in mind to be motzi me when you blow the shofar. So if it sounds like, even though the attendant would otherwise have had in mind to be motzi himself, he would not be motzi Rabbi Zera unless he had in mind to be motzi Rabbi Zera. So from here, it sounds like even if the person who's blowing doesn't have in mind. Remember, we said that if it's a shliach tzibor, the shliach tzibor, we assume that of course he has in mind to be motzi everybody. But we said if it's not a shliach tzibor, so we brought an opinion that he wouldn't be motzi people. So Dilma, namely consistent with Rabbi Zera. So Dilma, Aidi the Tana Reshim Misasek Tana Resepa Nami Misasek. So we can't derive that inference from the Mishnah either. It could be the person wouldn't be Yotze. It's just that since we're talking about how in general a Misasek Yotze. So when we speak about a person who's listening from somebody else who's not Yosef, say Shomei Min Misasek. If he would listen to somebody who's not a Misasek, who's blowing the shofar to fulfill his obligation, but just doesn't have in mind to be mostly anybody else, he also wouldn't be Yosef. Okay. Yes.
In all these cases that we're talking about, in all these cases that we're talking about, we don't mention the person that's blowing even made a bracha. So isn't the bracha ma'akiv? In other words, the blowing of the shofar is ma'akiv from bracha.
When we say brachos ma'akvos with respect to Tekiyah shofar, Tosfos explains what brachos ma'akvos means is that if I do malkios and I don't do zichronos and shofaros, so that's mi'akiv. If I do the Tekiyah and I'm not going to do a shvarim and a trua, so that's they're ma'akiv each other. But the bracha is not ma'akiv the Tekiyah. It's the bottom of Tosfos. We have the long Tosfos, the Lamed Gimel, Lamed Beis. He explains what it means when we talk about the brachos being Tekiyos brachos me'akvos zu et zu, which is the expression. It doesn't mean the bracha is me'akiv the Tekiyah. You didn't make a bracha and you blew the shofar, you'd still be Yotze. Yeah. Okay. So now your Mishnah. Seder Tekiyos shalosh shalosh. The Tekiyos are that you're supposed to blow 3 sets, and each set is supposed to have a Tekiyah, a Trua, and a Tekiyah. That's it. Medina, according to Medina Torah, your Yotze, as long as if you knew what a trua was, if you knew what a proper trua was, you would just do 3 sets in which you'd have a trua in the middle, a tkiyah before, and a trua or a tkiyah afterwards. You'd have 9 tkiyahs. 9 tkiyahs, you'd be Yotze. Shalosh, 9. So shia tkiyah, how long is the tkiyah supposed to be? Kishalosh truas. It's supposed to be like 3 truas. Okay, we'll see. Maybe that's not exact. Shia trua, kishalosh yivavos. Shia, how much is a trua? How much is a trua? A trua is like 3 whimperings. Yivamos. Taka berishona umashach b'shnia kishtayim. If you, let's say, in the beginning of the set, you blow a tekiah, and then that's your first tekiah, and then you do your trua, and then you have your last tekiah, but you say the last tekiah so long that you want it to cover the last tekiah of the first set and the first tekiah of the second set. Let's say the last tekiah of Malchios and the first tekiah of Zichronos. It only counts for 1 because, as we said, we don't split 1 tekiah in half. It only counts for 1. It doesn't matter how long it is. If a person made the bracha, meaning that he said all of Musaf, okay, and then said, "Oh, forgot to blow the shofar," or more likely, they didn't have a shofar. There's somehow a shofar was not available until you finished Musaf. So that's okay. You can still blow the shofar afterwards. Okay, Maria, if it's okay, Shalosh Be'avim. I mean, if it's like we do at the end of Shmona Esrei, we have additional tkiyos, so you can do it 3 times. Again, 3 sets of 3 tkiyos, tkiyah, 2 tkiyah each, and you'd be Yotze the obligation.
So you can mix if the malchiyot to shofar, but you cannot mix between the groups, right? You Yotze if you mix, but you're not Yotze if you mix between the groups.
You're supposed to blow the shofar ideally during Malchias, during Zikronos, and during shofars. That's what you're supposed to do. If it happens that you didn't have a shofar when you were saying Musaf and you only got the shofar afterwards, you're still Yotze. So it's not mi'akiv per se to do it in the middle of Musaf. You're supposed to, but if you didn't, you could still be Yotze, just like you could be Yotze the tkiyos with tkiyos to miyushav. Let's say you only show up the tkiyos before Musaf begins altogether, like a lot of women do, right? You go as they're there. To be there, after Kriyas HaTorah, and you hear the first set of tkiyos, you could also be Yotze. But there is certainly at least a kiyum and a deraisa level to hear the tkiyos in connection, Malchios, Zikronos, and Shofos. The one who really emphasizes that a lot is Rashi. You look at Rashi even at the beginning of the Mishnah, Achas the Malchios, Achas the Zikronos, Achas the Shofos. That's really when it's supposed to be done. And even when you do it at the end of the Shmona Esrei, Rashi says, this is the last Rashi on the Mishnah, you have to have in mind Malchios Siklonos V'Shofaros, even if you're doing it after Shmona Esrei. So according to Rashi, it's very, very important that it be somehow connected to Malchios Siklonos V'Shofaros. That happens to be a particularly strong sheet of Rashi.
That was inspired the Globe Shofar in Silent Shmona Esrei also.
Yeah, you know who this, not only Nusach Sfar, but Soloveitchik used to hold that was appropriate. So he would do 30 tekios before Musaf, 30 tekios in the silent Shmona Esrei, 30 tekios in Chazaras Hashas, and another 10 tekios at the end. And the one who mentions that is actually Tosos. Also, that's in this long Tosos. Also mentions this idea. He says Shloshim. If you take a look at the long Tosfos, the first word on the line, and the fifth wide line begins with the word Ba'avdi in brackets. Ba'avdi Shloshim K'di Yasvin, 30 when you're sitting. Shloshim Balachash, 30 should be in the silent Shmona Esrei. Shloshim Ala Seder, and then 30 in Chazaras Hashatz. And then you have another 10, at the end. Kenegin Mea Fios, the Paya Ime the Sisra, corresponding to the 100 whimperings that, according to the Medrash, we have a Kabbalah that the mother or sister cried 100 times. The extra 10, Milei Nasari Inun, because she governed Kol Tefillah, you do the last 10 after you finish Musaf. So the reason we don't do that ourselves because it's kind of hard to synchronize, to blow the shofar during people's silent Shmona Esrei, do it exactly at the right time. For Soloveitchik, but he had a small minion, so he would do it that way because he felt it was easier to synchronize. So he would have the tkiyos. Like Tosos writes, the 30 of the tkiyos would be during the silent Shmona Esrei as well. Back to the Mishnah, just as the Shliach Tzibah has to blow the shofar, everybody has to blow the shofar. What do you think you're going to get away just listening to Shliach Tzibah? You betcha you're going to get away with just listening to Shliach. We don't want everybody trying to blow the shofar. It's going to be a mess. Shliach Tzibah, Motzi, Yasavavim, Yidei Kovasim. Let one person who knows how to blow the shofar, and he'll be Motzi everybody else. Okay, good. So the Gemara says, and not only with respect to Tekiyas, obviously with respect to the prayer of Musaf as well. Gemara says that if you had people who didn't know how to put daven Musaf, they could be Yotzei with the Shliach Tzibah. So the Gemara says, Ve'atanya, Brisa says, Mashir Tekiya Ketrua. Now that a Tekiya is not like 3 truas, it's like 1 trua. In other words, the total length of a Tekiya should be the same as the length of a trua. So Amar Abaye, that everybody agrees with that statement. It's just that our Tana Didan Kachashiv Tkiya the Kulu Babi, when it's talking about all 3 tkiyos of all 3 sets is the same as all 3 truos. So that's what our Tana means. As our Tana says, Shia Tkiya Kishalosh truos really means that the 3 tkiyos that you're going to blow in terms of the 3 sets will be the same length as the totality of the 3 truos. The Kulu Babi, the truos, the Kulu Babi. And the Brisa is just talking about in each set. So in each set, you'll have an equation that 1 tkiya is equal to 1 trua. You look at the first Rashi in the Gemara, that what our Mishnah really is saying is that shir hashalosh tkiyos, the shir shalosh truos. That all 3 tkiyos of the full set add up as the same length of time as the 3 truos. But really, the equation is the length of 1 tkiya equals the length of 1 trua. So how long is that? Shia trua gimel yavavos. Well, let's figure out how long is a trua. A trua is 3 whimperings. Shia tkiya kishalosha shavarim. But we have a separate brisa that says that the shia trua is like 3 groans. So what is it? 3 whimperings? Where's the 3 groans? So Amar Abaye Bahavadai Pligi. So here we definitely have a machlokes between our Mishnah and the Brisa, because a groan, which is like a sigh, takes longer than a staccatic sob or whimper. Yom Trua Yelachem. It says that this is a day, Rosh Hashanah, that will be a day of Trua. What does Yom Trua mean? Mitzagaminan, we need Onkelos to tell us what Trua means. Trua means Yom Yavava. It's a day of whimpering, Yehei Lachon. Uksibi made the Sisra, and it says with respect to the mother of Sisra, when she saw that her son, the general of Chatzor, was not coming back from battle, that she was looking out the window waiting for him to come back from battle, but Tiabe Veim Sisra, and she started crying. So it says, uses a lashon, and she was whimpering. So what is V'tiyabev? So really, this is the disagreement between our Mishnah and the Brisa. Our Mishnah says that it's Yevavos, Marsav, and the Brisa says it's Shvarim. So the Brisa holds Mar Sava Genuche Ganach, that really it was sobs. It was a long sobs, a long sighs. Like, Mar Sava Yule Yulio. And the other, and our Mishnah holds that it was a series of whimperings. Okay, so that's basically your difference between a Shvarim and Trua. So we're not sure which is really correct. So we do both. So Rashi reads the Gemara Kipshuto that a Tkiya is like a Trua. A Trua is a Gimel Yavavo. So that's it. So it's 3 little sounds. A Trua would be 3 little sounds according to Rashi, and the length of making 3 sounds would be the length of a Tkiya. But the Riva quoted by Tosas, I have to quote this because it's an important shita for the pshat of the Gemara. It says that Yavava itself is Shalosh Kochos. That each Yavava is 3 different whimperings, in which case it would follow that the Trua is 9 short sounds, and that's what we do to have at least 9 short sounds. And the Tkiya would be 9, would be the length of 9 sounds, which we assume is at least approximately 2 seconds. So we try to make sure that the Tkiya is at least 2 seconds. Some say b'diavad, it could be 1.5 seconds, depending on how long the duration of a short note is. But it should be a total of what would add up as 9 notes. And we'll get to the shita that you do a shvarim trua. So a shvarim is at least 9 notes as well. Like a tkiya, we see it's probably a little longer. And a trua is 9 notes, so that should be at least 18 notes when you do the tkiya of a shvarim trua. And then there's the whole question that is raised, by Tosas. What do you do according if you want to satisfy both Rashi and the Riva? What do you do with a shvarim? If you do a shavarim, which is 3 notes long, then that already is going to count as a tekiya, according to Rashi. But if you only do it 2 notes long, and you have 3 shavarim, that's going to be a total of 6 notes, which is not going to be long enough because you need at least a total of 9 notes, according to the Riva. So what do you do? So Rav Chaim Soloveitchik held that what you should do is have a little, each shever should be around 2 notes, and do 5 shvarim. Don't do 3 shvarim, do 5 shvarim. And others say, what are you talking about? This is a sacrosanct notion. Everyone knows a shvarim is 3 times, not 5 times. So some just blow a shofar a little bit differently. They do tiyuta, 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 rather than tu, tu, tu. So that it would therefore cannot be mistaken as a tekiya because it has a different type of a blast. And others say, don't worry about it. We assume, 9 notes. So if you do, if you do each ever more than 3 notes, it's not going to be the end of the world since the Lamaisa, we're assuming that a tekiya is at least 9 notes. So you do each ever 4 notes for a total of 12, or 3 notes for a total of 9, and it's okay. Tanam Abanam Minayin Ship a shofar. How do we know that a Rosh Hashanah is supposed to blow a shofar? What do you mean? How do you know? It's like obvious. It's like ABCs. That's what every young infant in a crib knows that on Rosh Hashanah you blow a shofar. Come on. So Talmud said, yeah, but look in the Torah. Where does it say? Where does it say shofar? It doesn't say shofar. So Talmud it says Yom Truah. It says Zichron Truah. It doesn't say shofar with respect to Rosh Hashanah. Where does it say shofar? It says shofar with respect to Yovel. Yovel year, Yom Kippur. So you blow the shofar. Talmud Lomar. Shofar Truah. You blow the shofar in the Yovel year. So So I only know that I blow a shofar when it's Yovel. Rosh Hashanah B'nayin. How do I know I blow the shofar in Rosh Hashanah? Talmud Lomar, because it says in the pasuk dealing with the Yovel, it says shofar Truah b'chodesh hashvi'i. You're supposed to blow the shofar on the 7th month. That's Tishrei. She'ein Talmud Lomar b'chodesh hashvi'i. Doesn't have to say b'chodesh hashvi'i. It says Yom Kippurim. I know that to Yom Kippurim it was b'chodesh hashvi'i. So why does it say b'chodesh hashvi'i? She called Truah shechodesh hashvi'i seconds. That's a hekesh. It's a hekesh. It teaches me that every single time that you have a chodesh hashvi'i, that the chodesh hashvi'i you have truos, because here it says Truah, and you have a Yom Truah on Rosh Hashanah. So they should all be exactly identical. So just like in the Yovel year you blow with a shofar, so too on Rosh Hashanah you blow with a shofar. How do I know that before I blow the Truah, there's supposed to be a tkiya? Because it says B'havarta shofar Truah. How do I know before the Truah there's a tkiya? Tamloma B'havarta shofar Truah. Because there's a B'havara. Havara means that I'm going to have a sort of a prelude to the Truah. I'm going to pass through a prelude before I blow the shofar. So that's the tkiya. How do I know that I blow a regular tkiya after the Truah? Because after it says B'havarta shofar Truah, then it says Tabiru again. Tabiru shofar b'chol artzachem. Nine shepshuta le'achareh. Tamaloma tabiru shofar b'chol artzachem. So we see there's a havara, another blowing of the tekiya after the Trua. So this way I know that there's a Trua in the middle, a Tkiya before, a Tkiya afterwards. I do that for Yovel, and I know B'chodesh Hashvi, I can do that on Rosh Hashanah as well. Well, I already know I blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah from the fact that it says B'chodesh Hashvi. How do I know that I also accompany the Trua with the Tkiya before and the Tkiya afterwards on Rosh Hashanah? Same idea, same hekesh. Tamalomer B'chodesh Hashvi. Shei Tamalomer B'chodesh Hashvi will begin the top of this page. It didn't have to say B'chodesh Hashvi. Ma Tamaloma B'chodesh Hashvi. Why does it say B'chodesh Hashvi when it already says in the pasuk by Yovel Yom HaKippurim? Again, to teach me this hekesh. Shehu called Truos HaKodesh Hashvi. We'll just go one more line. Minayin shalosh shalosh shalosh. And how do I know that I do it 3 times and not just 1 time? I have 3 truos, and each one is accompanied by a tzkiya before and a tzkiya afterwards. A tamaloma, because it says 3 times the trua. It says with respect to Yovel, Be'abarta Shofar Trua, and it says with respect to Rosh Hashanah 2 times. Shabbos and Zichron Trua, a Yom Trua Yelachem. So I know 3 times. How do I know that the 1 time of Yovel is added to the 2 times of Rosh Hashanah, and the 2 times of Rosh Hashanah is added to the 1 time of Yovel? Tamalomar, because here I already have a Gezerah Shava that it says with respect to each time B'chodesh Hashvi. Each time it says Abarata Shabbat Trua B'chodesh Hashvi. The B'Bani Yisrael B'chodesh Hashvi Leimor. B'chodesh is B'chad B'chodesh Yelachem Shabbason Zikron Trua. It says Abarata Shua Trua B'chodesh Hashvi. So I have a Gezerah Shava. The Gezerah Shava. Okay, so Shalosh Shein Teisha. So therefore, that teaches me that I have 3 times Trua that end up being a total of 9 times. Okay, stop here.